Hi, this is Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, the President, Founder, and Chief Listening Officer here at our network at USA Global TV and Radio. Thank you so much for your loyalty. Thank you so much to all of our guests, to our team members, to our sponsors, and to all of our elevated listeners. Here at USA Global TV and Radio, we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. We celebrate all of our team members, all of our guests, and all of our sponsors from around the world who come and lead their lives with their hearts to help other people walk into their greatness. If you'd like to be a guest on any of our shows, please go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com, and book your session. Please contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com and subscribe to our channel. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today at USA Global TV and Radio. Wherever you are in the world, welcome and thank you. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is the Business Talk Show. Our topic is why technical engineering voices need to be heard at the corporate level. My co-host and dear friend, Mr. al.cini, has the day off, so I will be here welcoming our guests. And I'm super excited. We haven't talked about this topic so far. And for all of you out there who have a technical background or who are engineers, thank you for watching. And we're looking forward to learning more about this industry. Joining us today is Molly Brown. She's joining us from Connecticut, and we're going to find out how she is aligned with technical engineering and coaching. Let's welcome her to the program. Come on out, Molly. Nice to see you.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And as you just heard me mention, this is a new topic for us on this particular show. So I'm excited to find out more. So next to your name, for those people who are on the radio or on a podcast platform, you have Mindset Engineer. What does that mean?
This is my evolution of the engineering I used to do as a mechanical engineer in the aerospace industry, and realized that we do these root cause investigations whenever anything breaks in the field. And the common thread on all of those root cause investigations is at some point in the design phase, we've made a wrong assumption about the world, and the real world is going to win over the model and our assumptions every single time. So the common denominator on whenever anything is breaking is that we didn't know enough information about the world when we designed it. So the blanket way to help all of these problems is, I originally thought, was to get more data about the world, to learn more about the world by collecting more information about it. And so we went through that iteration, collected a bunch of data, and then I watched my team in the organization, very technical, very educated people, use that information to subconsciously draw a target around an arrow of where we were going to go anyways. And I watched this happen many times and got really curious, as an engineer would, about the mechanism of this decision making, the mechanism of using data to, instead of informing you about things that you don't know and getting more information about a wedge of the world you don't know, to use the information to do what we were going to do anyways, now in a more expensive way and a more confident thinking way. So I dove into looking at that mechanism and realized that that's not this bias. The confirmation bias isn't something that we can train ourselves out of or educate ourselves out of or become aware of and then overcome. It's part of intrinsically how the brain and the mind internalize and use data is by aligning it with beliefs that already exist. And so looking at that mechanism and wanting to bring that understanding back into the business to be able to get value from data, we need a very different approach than I was coming across, anywhere in the aerospace and engineering industries where I have experience. And it's that we make assumptions up front, or the new way I propose is to make assumptions up front in the absence of data, in the absence of evidence, and then the brain does what it's going to do anyways, which is goes out and finds and selects data to support that. And this is a really different approach than trying to make a data-driven decision and saying, I'm going to come to this data without bias, which we can't do, and with an open mind, and let the data lead me and follow me on a story. And it's simply not possible for that to happen. It is possible to be unaware of your bias and unaware of the beliefs you're coming to the data with, but it is not possible to come to the data without those. And it is those beliefs that are going to select what you are able to perceive and act on from all of the information around you. So the coaching I do with people is this reverse engineering process of becoming aware of the biases and beliefs that we already have, which there's some we know through scientific studies that these start at the age of 7, and before the age of 7 most of our beliefs have started forming in our brain already. Before the conscious mind is able to argue them for ourselves, we're just adopting what's around us. So to lead people through the process of becoming aware of what beliefs are already being held in the way the software informs the hardware in the brain as connections, once you know those beliefs, to have the opportunity to erase them, to rewrite them, and redesign new beliefs based off of a goal. And then how do you start interacting with data from this 180-degree opposite standpoint? And that's the work I lead people through, either as individuals wanting to make changes in their own life or as businesses wanting to make decisions based off of data.
I love that. That is really fascinating. And what came to mind for me, I'm also a coach, is how many times people will jump to conclusions, or they don't have all the facts, and based on their beliefs, they just assume this, that, or the other is the outcome. So as you're going through this process with people, what are you what are they finding, just in general, some of the things that are coming up for them when they realize they have these biases or these beliefs?
Yeah. So one of my favorite niches that I like to work with, because it's where I come from, is working with shy, introverted, technical people. And if you have your Venn diagram of technical people and introverted people, there's a heavy overlap there. And so there are, personality Myers-Briggs and Clifton Strength Finders, many tests that you can use to diagnose yourself as an introvert, and then that becomes a belief that is self-sustaining in the way that you act. And so to kind of wake people up to the fact that that's not a cast in stone thing that you have no control over, and to allow the people who have these really technical, in-depth knowledge, and to get rid of that belief that they are introverted, that it is difficult to speak up, it is scary to speak up, it's not as much fun to be in meetings as it is to be out in a lab taking things apart, that they are both important, and to help individuals go sort through those beliefs that they're holding about themselves, that are holding back their own potential in their career, they're holding back the potential of the technologies that these companies are developing, because those voices just could be, and I really think they should be, much louder at the decision-making table. So to help sit with people and unwind those beliefs about why is speaking hard, why is it not fun, why do we just assume that people aren't going to want to listen to us? So much of anxiety and shyness comes from an assumption about how people are going to receive you and the information you're going to present, and it happens before that reception even happens. So to help people understand that the cause and the effect are really backwards, and that we can sit together and through discussion and coaching and conversation practice making different assumptions, and how, when we go to operate and act with those different assumptions, how the shyness can go away, how you can stand up in front of a crowd and speak, how you can express your own ideas clearly, and share your passion for the technology that you're developing with people who don't necessarily have the in-depth understanding you do, and you can be the translator and the vehicle to bring that to a larger audience.
I love what you're sharing here. It's really resonating with me. I was in corporate for my whole career up until 2020, and I was in sales. So I was supposed to be one of the loud people, right? Sitting at the conference room table. The salespeople are the ones that are supposedly guiding the conversation, and the technical people, you would call on them. Okay, what is your thoughts about this particular subject? But I love what you're sharing, because where do these labels come from, and why do we believe them and then act accordingly? Like someone put a spell on us. Okay, you're a technical engineer, you're not going to be outgoing. Your sales, you are going to be outgoing. And in the meantime, what happens, at least in my experience, is I don't want to always be the one talking or be the one leading. And yet so then I have this confidence issue, and it's just like this, it just goes round and round. So the technical voices are extremely important, because we need to have everybody's opinions, thoughts, experience shared, instead of having these roles that we've been playing for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that I wasn't as aware of when I was in a role as an engineer, since I've been out for a little over a year now, coaching and meeting other coaches and meeting leaders and leadership coaches and things, is the prevalence of these tests to give leaders an ability. In my way of seeing it, it's to allow leaders to custom.
Oh, looks like Molly is frozen for the moment. So we will take a quick break, and then we will come back and have more conversation. So please stay with us. We do have some comments. Let's see, from Daniel Wagger, I think that is your name. Where are you from? So we are in the United States, and Molly is in Connecticut, and I am in Florida. So thanks for asking. Thanks for being here today. Okay, let's take a look at some sponsorships, and we'll be right back with more wonderful information here on The Business Talk Show. You feel so frustrated. Why won't anybody hear what you have to say? You're filled with anxiety. You feel so isolated and alone. You're desperate for a connection with someone out there in a world that just seems to keep rushing by. Stop. You have a choice. Learn how to listen at an elevated level through the power of listening educational courses available on usaglobaltv.com. A world where you manifest everything you need and desire through the power of listening. The Power of Listening educational courses are available today for you to feel and know you have connected and you have been heard through elevated listening skills. The Power of Listening educational courses and children's books available today on usaglobaltv.com.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Story Garden. Your host, Diane Boehm. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Diane Floyd Boehm tells wonderful stories that warm the heart, spark the imagination, and unite people and families across generations. For children, Diane's Harry the Camel connects with all of us who've ever wondered how different our lives might have been if only we'd been born something better, like a wonderful horse instead of an ordinary camel. In the end, we all learn along with Harry that there's nothing better than just being yourself. Diane's Little Girl in the Moon looks down on earthbound children and wonders if they know she's just like them. A story of love, home, and the bond between mother and daughter, its powerful theme that we're each of us different yet all of us the same plants a seed in children that promises to blossom within a loving and trusting grown-up. Diane's new biography, Rise, recounts the experiences of her grandmother, Ruby, to reveal the hidden strength of the human spirit. Ruby's story inspires all of us to become the best versions of ourselves. You'll find all of Diane's delightful books and much more at dianefloydboehm.com. Visit dianefloydboehm.com. That's dianefloydboehm.com.
Everyone, thank you so much for staying with us through the break. This is USA Global TV and Radio. I'm still Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show is the Business Talk Show. Our topic is why technical engineering voices need to be heard at the corporate level. And our special guest today is Molly Brown, mindset engineer. Let's welcome her back to the program. Hi, Molly. Good to have you back.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So as we were talking before we went into the break about how there are these roles that we play because we have these biases and these beliefs that we're supposed to act a certain way. And to your point earlier, that these beliefs actually are instilled in us by the time we're age 7, which is really incredible. So when I think about it, it's almost like you have layers and layers of clothing, and we have to take them all off so we can actually get back to the basics. So how do you work with your clients to help them do this?
Yeah, so it happens through conversation. And I have a specific intent with the conversation, not to respond to the specific things that our people are telling me, but to see in those things the underlying belief that would cause them to see the world in that way. Like with the example of being introverted or extroverted, those two people with different beliefs about themselves and different beliefs about the world and how they're received into the world are going to perceive the same situation in very different ways. And so by asking people about how they're perceiving a situation or a problem or a limit or even a goal, how they're perceiving this, I can see underneath that the beliefs that they're holding. And then once we see the belief, like if the belief is, well, people aren't going to listen to me, right? That's a high level kind of belief that would be behind not speaking up. And if that's an assumption or belief you've already made, to then interrogate that and start knocking legs out from underneath it. Is it true that I'm sorry, I have a dog in the background. Is it true, especially when people use always and never kind of language, to just start pushing back on that? And initially in coaching, that pushback comes from an external coach. But through the period of coaching, the intention is to give the person the awareness of their own belief system and the power that those beliefs are shaping the world and results that they're surrounded by, to give them the model to follow, to be pushing back on their thoughts themselves. So the kind of sequence doesn't go think a thought, act on the thought. It's think the thought, consider if it's a productive thought, consider if you believe the thought is true and helpful, and then act on the thought. And that there will be a initially like a fishing kind of sequence to be like, this is a thought I've acted on so many times and it hasn't gotten me where I want to go. And so to recognize that that's the same thought that's coming up again, and to refuse to act on it and just let another thought take its place. And you might go through, as you have this kind of worn grooves and mental muscle memory to offer you the same thoughts over and over and over again. Initially, there's a lot of rejection of thought. But as time goes on and you start designing the new thoughts that you want to be thinking based off of the new results that you want to be getting, in the total absence of data to support those, you start writing out what those thoughts would be, and then give yourself the opportunity to think and execute on from that place of belief and thought. And then you start to see things change around you.
Thanks for sharing that. And just to follow through with what you're sharing to make sure I understand. So if I say to myself, don't speak up because you're going to sound like an idiot, because somewhere along the way, maybe someone told me that was a stupid comment, or maybe I was brought up believing don't speak unless you're asked to speak. Then I would replace that. First, I accept the fact that this is not helpful and it's not getting me where it is I need to go. So I need to take that thought and replace it with something that is positive, that will help be a catalyst to move me forward.
Yes. And I see so much, like we started talking before about the personality tests and ways to understand how people around you are, like a DISC or bank or different kind of buckets we can put people in. And if we, in a team, in a corporate team, if you're in sales and you're interacting with people one-on-one, then that is a kind way to interact with people in a way that they're going to understand you quickly. But if you're in a long-term relationship and a development relationship with somebody like an employer and an employee, or a boss and somebody on their team that they're trying to develop, and we put them in this category and say, oh, well, you seem to be introverted and it seems to scare you and you don't like to do things like this. And then we as leaders start customizing things to that belief system, that tendency that they already have. It continues to tunnel them more and more into that. And instead, we can be leading people to question and push back on their own beliefs within their own desire for progress and with their own comfortable pace within that progress, but be encouraging them to push back on those beliefs and assumptions and become aware of those driving beliefs and assumptions, instead of just handing them, oh, you like technical details. Here's just a bunch of technical details. Live under this mountain. You like to be out talking to people. Just go out, talk to people. Don't ever have to do anything else. To help people become more well-rounded.
I think this would be a fascinating exercise on an ongoing basis for all teams, because we do get pigeonholed into certain categories. And just to expound on that, when I was in corporate, I didn't think I had any creative skills at all, because creative people were doing the creative things. And it turns out when I left, every day I'm doing something creative. But for 28 years, I believed I had no creative skills whatsoever, because I was told that that's for somebody else. So I think it would be fascinating, in addition to taking these personality tests and working with you, to understand the other people who I'm interacting with on a regular basis, that what are some of the things that they don't think, where they were told or they believe they're not good at, but yet they really want to do them. They really want to try them. It really gets you out of your box and out of your comfort zone to learn more about yourself and the people you're working with or you're living with.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's a new kind of playground, a new kind of way that we can develop and interact with ourselves and develop and interact with our colleagues and people around us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when you think about how you work with an individual versus how you work with a team, what does that look like when you're working with a team?
Yeah, a team would have a specific goal that they're working towards. In a technical, usually to develop some kind of technology, they have a timeline that they're on, like a kind of project schedule. And so we would work with people up front about their beliefs about their ability to stay on schedule and on budget. Like if you've worked on projects before, you're showing up to a new project with some kind of um, historical belief system about what is possible. And if we're starting out on a new project with this assumptions based off of past performance, we tend to repeat the same thing. I saw this in my role as an engineer over and over again, is what things were just expected to go above budget. And then, thinking now about what is cause and effect in the brain, and wondering, looking back, well, did it actually have to go over budget, or was day one the expectation was these things always run long and go out of budget? And so certain acceptances were made from the very beginning to fulfill that expectation. And so to design, have a specific intentional expectation design phase within the team of people who are working on it. And then to give people awareness of old beliefs and what that looks like in language when people are speaking from a place of the old belief, and have transparency among the team so that they can start holding each other accountable for that, and so they can see in correspondences and in meetings when somebody is falling back on those old expectations, that the team can say, oh, um, we recognize by that language that any action we take from this place is going to perpetuate and fulfill old expectations, and to pause and redo the assumptions. And it's through conversation. It's through conversation, because by talking to each other, we can put a picture that's in my mind in somebody else's mind by talking to them. And I can tell what pictures in somebody else's mind by them talking to me. So they start saying things like, oh, this won't be done. We will probably have to push this, phrases like that. And I can say, oh, I see what's happening in their mind. They're seeing a future. They're seeing a month into the future, and they're seeing it go a certain way. And then I would intentionally, in my mind, see the month in the future going the way that we have all agreed that we want it to go, and start replacing the phrases that they're saying with the phrases that align with the future that we're trying to drive to. And then to have a whole team that together knows this tactic, so that you can communicate back and forth with it on the team, and it becomes powerful that way. It's powerful as an individual also, but an entire team doing this can change the way that a project goes, an entire quarter of work goes.
I can see this would be really liberating. And what I'm thinking of is, let's say you and I are signed to a project along with some other people, and I'm thinking, I don't want to work with him. He doesn't do what he's supposed to do, and he's just going to mess this up. Or I'm so tired of this company giving us projects like this because there's not going to be enough, et cetera, whatever it is. So do you then, as the coach, almost like an arbitrator or a mediator, do you help facilitate so that I actually can share, well, when I've worked with Bill in the past, this, that, or the other happens, and keep it on a professional level so people are not intimidated or insulted?
Yes, and beliefs are not they're not time dependent statements. Like to say, oh, he in the past, in these instances, didn't turn something to me in on time. And so the belief in general becomes that it won't be on time. And so to pull back to from an accusation or a specific time of something into the general belief that's under it, and then we can talk about those beliefs in a non-accusatory and non-personal way. Very often I talk to people who are new in leadership positions, and to ask them, and same with sales. Sales is interesting also, to ask them, what do you think about leaders? How have you been treated by leaders before? And to have people who are now newly in a leadership position initially tell me stories of leaders that they've had in the past that were bad lead in their terminology, they were bad leaders, that and to then watch them struggle with an imposter syndrome, or not wanting to actually take the reins and stand up and speak and lead, because in their mind they are playing for themselves movies of past bad leaders, and that is not productive. It doesn't help you become a good leader. So to help those people in their own mind find a different example of a leader to be imaging in their mind, that helps them move forward differently. And same with sales. If you're in sales and you ask them, well, what do you think of salesmen? And they're like, oh, well, nobody likes to talk to salesmen. Like, what how is your experience going talking to people as salesmen? Well, nobody answers my phone call, nobody returns my call. And that the cause and effect there is the belief preceded that. The belief that nobody likes to talk to salesmen precedes their experience of going out and then allowing that themselves to find that possibility in their own results.
Absolutely tracking with what you're talking about. I grew up in the car industry. My dad was a new car dealer, and people would always say, oh, the automotive industry is so sleazy, used car salesman, sleazy. And then you have to try to overturn that belief system that they have, because it has nothing to do with what it is that we were doing. It's just interesting. But people come to the table, they come to work already believing a certain thing. And especially if you are working in an organization and you are not pleased with the leadership, you have a choice, right? You can either have a different belief system and figure out how to make it work, or you could go find a new job. But if you come every day saying to yourself, I can't stand this guy, I can't stand this woman, you're boxing yourself in and probably not working to your full potential, right?
Right. And those beliefs, going back to the age of 7, you start showing up to jobs and bosses in a state that will fulfill the expectations that you have. So you might have lots of memories of having bad bosses and bad leaders around you. You found your way to those circumstances based on the assumptions that you made, and somebody next to you might have the same boss and be on the same project and have all the same conditions, and they're having a totally different experience. And it's because they have a different belief system from before the age of 7. So often we go back to school to try to change or get ahead in our job, and the things that we're dragging around that are continuing to have these bad experiences are just things we couldn't question because they came to us too early in life. So to stop and pause and partner with somebody who can help you question that, or get on a team that's invested in having everybody help each other question those things, then you pull them out by the underlying belief. And when you do that, and then you look back on memories, the way you look back on the memories changes also.
Yes, absolutely. And what I'm wondering is, if we think about the egocentric person versus the heart-centric person, how does that work? If I'm heart-centric and I want to understand my belief system, I understand how can I do my job to keep us on point, to show up with the best version of me. But yet you have other people who might be egocentric saying, I don't believe in any of that, I know what I know, and that's the bottom line. Do they need individual coaching as well?
Yeah, and some of it is understanding the premise of the coaching, and we can go into for different individuals really looking at the chemistry of the brain and the body, and how even to look all the way into epigenetics. So the way that something expresses in your body, the way your genes express in your body, has more to do with the chemical state around them at the point when the gene is being read. And this is a huge oversimplification, but just an example of helping somebody very very technical, very fact driven, not emotion driven, understand the value of doing this kind of work. So, and in the body, when these genes are being read, the chemical state of the body is that is an emotion. That the electrical signals in the brain tell the brain to mix certain chemicals in the body, and we experience that chemical cocktail as an emotion. From that emotional state, operations in the body are different. And we can change those operations in the body by changing the chemical state. And the chemical state is commanded and controlled by the brain. And the brain is not connected to the outside world except through our own perception and thinking. And nothing's actually dumped into the brain. You can close your eyes, you can put earplugs on, you can be in a very quiet place and take yourself from one emotion to another emotion without any need from the outside world at all. And as you do that, the state of your body is so different that the genes in your body will express differently. And so if that can be so strong to actually create organs and structures in your body differently, it's also strong enough to just have a conversation differently, to perceive a meeting differently, to perceive a leader differently, or to go about a task and action differently.
The work you're doing is so valuable. And I also feel like it's an awakening. It's an awareness that people didn't have before. And when we have this awareness, there's so much we can do with it. There's so many places we can go with it. So, for people out there who are business leaders, people who are on teams, part of teams, when a project is being defined, are you brought in then, or is it before the team's assigned? How does that work?
Usually I do work within the change management sphere. So when after a new technology has been deployed and all the technical pieces are in place, then it's time for people's behavior. It's time for the culture of the company to adopt it. If that process isn't going smoothly, that's one of the times that I jump in and start helping people to change their behavior to use an existing technology.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. So, I would love for you to let people know how they can get in contact with you and who should reach out. Who out there, they're thinking to themselves, "Wow, I really could use help." Who do you want to contact you?
Yeah, so my website is mindset-engineering.com, and you can get on there. You can book a complimentary coaching session with me directly through that website. Also, LinkedIn, Mindset Engineer, the Mindset Engineer. You can get a hold of me on LinkedIn. And individual engineers, especially if you are wanting your career to develop and grow and you feel held back by anxiety or shyness, and that's restricting where you want to go in your career and how you want to be able to speak up. Or even if you're not looking for a promotion, you're just looking for it to be less stressful to interact with your own team as an individual, please reach out. You do not have to continue working and living that way. That can go away very quickly. And also leaders of teams putting together new teams, especially in a new technology space where they're creating new boundaries and pushing the boundaries forward to have the desired expectations of the success of that project.
Well, congratulations to you for this. This is a fascinating area that you're working in. And I thought to myself, over all those years in corporate that why is he not speaking? Why am I supposed to be speaking? What is he really thinking? I'd love to hear from him. But so I think these labels that we've been using have to go. And
Yeah.
it's almost like I feel like what you're sharing is we come to work or we show up in our life with a blueprint and we stick by that blueprint, like a blueprint for a house. I mean, we don't want to live in that house. We want a different blueprint. It was like, no,
Yeah.
this is the one I was given.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And to certainly stop giving people blueprints. And for those of us who've already assumed them or have them, to get the tools to build the house and the life and the mind we want to live with.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I hope you'll come and visit us on one of our other shows. We have about 25 shows a week, so we'd love to help you continue sharing your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks again. Bye-bye. And thanks to each and every one of you out there who's watching or listening, whether it's on the live or the replay. We truly do appreciate you. If you'd like to be a guest on any of our shows, please go over to usaglobaltv.com. All right, a couple of announcements I want to share. We have some new programs. We also have some new courses, and we're always looking for new people to come and join us from across the world. So let me just share some of these things that we're doing. We've got our show Hot Topic, which can really be about anything you want it to be. Yesterday, we had our first show on compulsive gambling in the sports industry. So that was an unusual topic. We also have our show Entrepreneur and so much more. This one is with Justin Rigliani. And we also have, let me find it here. This is starting on February the 7th with Doug Lawrence. Your story, your grief, your journey. We have another new show starting on the 6th of February, the Sales Leader Roundtable with Kenley Davenport and Jim Diebold. A show that I am starting up once upon a time, the Good Book Guide for Kids. And of course, some courses that we have just quickly. We welcome everyone to join our team. And the way that you do that is by becoming an elevated listener, taking the Power of Listening certification course. This is a 2-hour course you take at your leisure, and it is paced, so you can't just rush through it, but it takes 2 hours at the most. And you learn how to listen without judgment, without interruption, without stage hogging, and without problem solving. So you can go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com, to education. And finally, we have another course that is being offered February the 7th. It's called The Art of Being a Professional Interviewer. There's probably 5 million plus people doing podcasts and interviews. I've done over 1,900 shows so far, and so I've learned a few things along the way. And you'll also hear from Ian Pelham-Turner in London, Helena Shard in London. They've done over 3,000 shows themselves. They're our expert correspondents on the United Kingdom news and culture. And you'll hear from Daisy Gideon, who is in Lebanon. She is also an international award-winning journalist. You'll get some tips about how you can put yourself in a class of your own when it comes to being a professional interviewer. So thanks again for listening and for watching. We'll be right back with Talking Heads starring Caroline Heward. So do stay tuned for that. Bye for now.